Hello and welcome to Automotive Tales. On today's video we're going to look at another car from the Automotive Tales fleet. This time we're looking at my 2020 model year Volvo V60 R-Design. My daily driver, and one I share with Mrs Automotive Tales. And if you're watching this video wondering why have I gone all James May with my very long hair, well, we're in lockdown, we can't do our normal Tall Tales videos that we would do in the studio with other people, so we're going to introduce you to various cars within the fleet. And as it's been a long time since the hairdressers have been open, my hair is looking a little bit unwieldy. Sorry about that. We've had this car now just approaching a year. In fact, it's just been in for its first annual service. So we bought this car in early March 2020 before we went into lockdown as a replacement for our previous daily, which was a Volvo V40, also R-Design, also osmium grey. At the time we bought this car, we had kind of two regular use vehicles. We had a Volvo V40 R-Design, and we had a first generation Volvo XC90, a 185 horsepower D5. We needed something that would kind of tick both boxes. Sure, the V60 is not going to match the XC90 in off-road capability, but in most other aspects it is fairly comparable. So it offers, a large boot space, it offers 5 comfortable seats, and it offers a tow bar, while also offering the comfort, the modern luxuries, and of course the fuel economy of the V40. So it seemed like an obvious choice to make the trade. So what spec did we go for with the V60? So we went in with a fairly open set of requirements. We needed something that would replace both cars, and that was about it, to be honest. But what we wanted was a V60. We needed the estate for its practicality. And the only requirements we had were a winter pack, which means heated seats, heated mirrors, etc. And we wanted it to be a manual. Now this isn't because I am the purist and everything must be a manual. I am more than happy to admit that an automatic is a very good piece of equipment and has its place. And for a daily driver, it certainly makes sense for an automatic. In fact, I imagine this car as an automatic would be very capable. However, Mrs Automotive Tales doesn't feel that an automatic gives her full control of the vehicle. So on that basis, we went for a manual. So here we are today in said V60 on a lovely, miserable English day. It's raining sideways, which is lovely. So those of you that are into continuity will notice the exterior shots and all the other shots probably won't be filmed on the same day because it's grim. So what does the V60 give us? Well, you've got a very modern, very Germanic feeling interior cabin. Lots of nice quality materials, all nicely put together. There's no squeaks or rattles in here apart from obviously the rain on the windscreen. We've got a selection of data displays. So we've got the usual for all modern cars. We've got the sort of touchscreen center console, which is a great big tablet of a thing, which I'm not personally a fan of, but does give you a lot of functionality within the vehicle. So that's where you can control all your audio, you can control your navigation, access to your phone, car messages, settings, etc. Then you have a secondary display in the dashboard. So not only have you got your normal 2 dials, which are digital in this case, you also have a screen that's nestled in between them as part of a single display. And that can give you a number of different options. At the moment I have it set to maps, which seems like the most useful option. So I don't have to glance across to the middle screen, which really isn't well placed for driving. In addition to that, you also have a heads-up display on the V60, which is a standard option. So at the moment this is telling me my speed, and it also tells you what the speed limit is in the area as its best guess. So it has a camera that reads the signs as you go along, and it works out what the speed limit is in that area. So the heads-up display gives you a third option for your navigation. Not only do you have a map in the center console, you also have a smaller version of the map in the middle of your dial binnacle, and then you have the next turning, or the most important piece of information you really need, actually on the heads-up display. So alongside your speed and your speed limit signs, it will also tell you what the next movement is you need to make. So I'd like to say the heads-up display is a great example of modern ergonomics and design. it's ideally placed to avoid having to take your eyes off the road, which is, you know, important in modern busy motoring. However, as a juxtaposition to this application of a large centre console screen is quite the opposite. If I need to go and change the radio station, or even a simple thing as upping the temperature within the cabin, I've got to go and dive into the touchscreen menus. And that really isn't something you can do very easily without taking your eyes off the road. And I think we've got two pieces of technology here that seem conflicting in their application. Using the heads-up display to provide all the important data for the driver so they never have to take their eyes off the road is a wonderful safety feature and a great idea. And then you counteract that with this massive, great big screen which is craving your attention and requiring your input and taking your eyes off the road if you're in the car on your own to change such basic things as the cabin air conditions or the seat heaters or to turn the radio on and off. Now, I will say, to Volvo's credit, this isn't just a Volvo thing. This is an all modern cars thing. One of my kind of pet hates, I have to say. And to Volvo's credit, they do have some basic functionality on the steering wheel and below the touchscreen on tactile buttons. So we've got a dial in the centre for turning the radio up and down, and a sort of play-pause button so you can stop the audio should you need to take a call. But you can't access any of the cabin controls for air conditioning, temperature, etc. without going into that screen. So my kind of plea to automotive manufacturers, let's take the basic things. So there's a few things you need to be able to do without interacting with the touchscreen, taking your eyes off the road. You need to know what speed you're going. Tick. You need to know your navigation. Tick. You need to be able to control the radio. Yep, tick in this case. You need to be able to control the cabin environment. And that's one thing that most cars fall down at. I think that's a minimum requirement for something that should be on a tactile button that you can feel your way to without ever taking your eyes off the road. So what other things are good and bad about the V60? Well, starting with the interior, because it's where I am right now. As I've mentioned, it's beautifully appointed. The use of piano black around this centre console screen really makes it quite a nice place to be. We've got a matte finish to the top of the dashboard, which helps with any reflection. And then we break up the sea of kind of darker coloured materials with some chrome highlights, albeit they're brushed chrome, so you don't get any massive reflections from those. And some, what I can only assume is like a carbon fibre weave effect trim, which I think on other models you can get as like a wood effect or actual wood insert trim. In addition to that, the piano black I mentioned on the centre console does follow into the lower section around the gear shift. Now that I don't like, because this is an area of high wear. So in there goes my phone, goes my key. I mean, currently the audio device that you're listening to me on is sitting in the centre console there, recording my audio. As well as other things, your car pass for work car parks, all those sorts of things. And having anything that's a shiny gloss piano black material next to a high use area like that is just a disaster waiting to happen. So our car is just over 12 months old and already is starting to show signs of very light surface scratches on that material. Without wanting to sound too much like Doug DeMuro, other cool kind of quirks on this car. So if you wave your foot under the boot, it will open without having to touch the boot. Now, we've talked about this on our podcast before, and certainly Greg, the Yorkshire engineer, has quite a disdain for this technology. He believes it's much easier if you can just push a button and open the boot yourself. And although I do agree with him in so much as excessive technology for the sake of technology isn't really a good thing, I have found on more than one occasion when I've got both hands full of equipment, which, let's be honest, this car is going to be used for load lugging. We've used it for a lot of DIY work, and when I've got my camera kit in the two big Pelly cases, I don't really want to put one down on a wet floor. I want to be able to open the boot and put them straight in. And in that instance, I have found that feature to be really very useful. However, there is the odd occasion where you stand behind the back of your car on one leg, hovering your other foot underneath the car, trying to open it when the key is maybe in your back pocket and not in range, and you get some very funny looks from the neighbours like you maybe have lost the plot. Really?
Take three?
So, what other sort of Volvo quirks and features are there to the car? Well, there's one little thing which I don't think non-Volvo owners and drivers will really know about, which is incredibly simple but a really delightful little addition to the car. At the base of the A-pillar, there's a tiny piece of little clear Perspex plastic, which is sprung-loaded against the windscreen. The purpose of this is simply to hold a piece of paper or whatever it might be, a piece of cardboard to the windscreen. So this little piece of plastic under the A-pillar, great little piece of design. It's been there since the Volvo V40, I think. I'm willing to be corrected. If you know when they first used that in a Volvo, let us know in the comments below. Other usual Volvo things, so there are cargo nets in the back of the seats. So if you've got luggage in the back of your Volvo estate and you don't want it flying through in the case of an accident, there's some mesh nets that pull up and clip into the ceiling to protect you from anything that might fly around. Also stops dogs from jumping over onto the back seats if you're carrying a dog in the back. Nice little feature. In addition, on this more modern Volvo with a hideable tow bar, is that the right word? Hideable, removable? It's not removable because it's hidden, it's behind the rear bumper, it's a hideable tow bar. There's a little button within the boot, you push that button, it releases a tow bar and it comes out from underneath the bumper. And then when you're done with it, you push the button again, it releases it, and you push it back up behind the bumper, you don't see the tow bar. Really neat little feature. Other quirks and features I really like about this Volvo V60 is the pedal box. Now this is something that might seem a bit left field and probably hasn't been picked up on other reviews, because I suspect 90% of the Volvo V60s that are sold with an automatic gearbox. It suits a more modern engine with a turbocharger much better. So why is the pedal box specifically of note? Well, what I discovered, and this is something that carried over from the V40 we had before, and I was quite amazed about, is the pedals are perfectly set up for a little bit of heel and toe. So if you're like me, you do like a little bit of enthusiastic driving. Yes, I know this isn't a sports car, it's a 2-litre diesel Volvo estate, but you can still hustle it around a good country road and enjoy the handling of those big wide tyres on a modern chassis. And the pedal box has clearly been set up by somebody that really enjoys motoring. So as you're leaning on the brakes coming into a corner, you'll find if you flip your heel across, that accelerator pedal is at just the right height to blip the throttle as you pop through the gears. Something that, when you've got a manual gearbox, is quite a nice thing to do. Not necessarily important when you're dealing with a big heavy diesel. Not exactly going to get peak performance from it, but it feels nice to drive a car in that enthusiastic manner. So bravo Volvo, really appreciate that tiny little feature that most people won't appreciate, because I think 90% of these are delivered as automatics. How to summarise this V60 then? Well, it's a practical, comfortable and frugal car. Thus far at least, it has also achieved its primary purpose as a joint replacement for our V40 and XC90, and has been 12 months of trouble-free motoring. And as an added bonus, it's way more elegant and stylish than a car you would call practical has any right to be. Not bad for a car you can drive for as little as £245 a month. A sensible choice then, but not one you would walk away from without a glance back.